Hi and welcome. A lot of what I'm about to tell you comes from an NBC Think op-ed piece I published this week entitled, "What Was Trump's Role During the Capitol Riot? The House Plans to Find Out." I'll expand on the ideas I presented in that piece and what all of this means. The sources for everything I'm about to tell you are in that article. I'll put a link with the notes to this video. On Wednesday, the Select House Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol demanded that various federal agencies hand over documents related to the riot. These numerous requests target then President Donald Trump, members of Trump's family, members of Congress, and congressional staff members, among others. Trump has threatened to challenge the document demand on the basis of executive privilege, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. He doesn't have much of a legal leg to stand on. We can learn a lot about what the Select Committee is doing and thinking from the specifics of their document demand. It's clear that the big questions on the minds of the committee members are: what did Trump and White House officials know about the attack on the Capitol, and when did they know it? These questions are key because almost all legal violations, with a few exceptions, require that the accused acted with some degree of intent or knowledge. The law, for obvious reasons, treats accidental injuries differently from those inflicted intentionally. In fact, proving intent or knowledge is one of the things that makes criminal prosecutions tricky and difficult. So far, more than 570 Americans have been charged in the attack on the Capitol. Prosecutors have brought charges like obstructing an official proceeding and engaging in disorderly conduct in a restricted building. So, all crimes have two components: the illegal act and the intention. It's easy to show the act part. It's easy to show that Trump and members of his inner circle took steps to make sure the riot would happen in time to disrupt the proceedings of Congress. The name of the rally, after all, was Stop the Steal, and it was planned for the exact time Congress was meeting to certify the election. What a coincidence, right? And Trump told the assembled crowd that they needed to demand that Congress do the right thing and count only the electors who have been lawfully slated. Trump also made clear that he wanted then Vice President Mike Pence to refuse to confirm Joe Biden's win. And Republican leaders were clear that steal meant denying that Trump won the election. At exactly 1:10 in the afternoon, Trump directed the rally-goers toward the Capitol. The proceedings began at 1:30. Coincidence? I don't think so. During the midst of the rioters storming the building, Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, left a voicemail for at least one senator asking him to delay the proceedings, to just slow it down, in his words, so that we could get ourselves into tomorrow, ideally until the end of tomorrow. So the act part isn't hard. It's the intent part that's hard. The defense put forward for Trump and others is that they never intended anything other than a peaceful demonstration. Intent is usually proven by circumstantial evidence because, unless a person signs a confession or is overheard revealing their intentions, the thoughts of a person can't be known with absolute certainty. Courts find that a person intended the natural and probable consequences of their actions. But in a high-profile case such as this one, involving a former president and members of Congress, investigators and prosecutors understandably require that the evidence be airtight. There's something else to remember for the people asking why it's taking so long, because there's plenty of evidence. Congress's task isn't to persuade a judge and jury. That happens in a different forum. Congress needs to persuade the public. They need the evidence to be airtight and irrefutable and easy to fit into a soundbite, hence the need for documents and contemporaneous notes. So if Trump or any members of his inner circle intended and took steps to help the rioters impede the counting of the electoral votes by means of disorderly conduct, they too would be in violation of these codes. This is important. All that's needed is to show that Trump intended the rally-goers to disrupt the proceedings of Congress and that he knew, given the nature of the crowd, that they would resort to unruly behavior to accomplish this. He would then be responsible for the natural and probable consequences of such a disturbance. Note, it's not necessary to show that he intended violence, and it's not necessary to show that he had a sweeping goal like overthrowing the government. It's evident from the documents demanded that the Select Committee is trying to get to Trump's intent and the intent of members of his inner circle. Because the document request also concerns communications with members of Congress, it's clear the committee wants to know what these members of Congress intended as well. So, how will the documents requested show intent? Let's take a look. To take one example, the committee asked for the records concerning planning by the White House and others for legal and other strategies to halt and otherwise impede the electoral count, and documents concerning recruitment, planning, coordination, and other preparations for the rallies leading up to and including January 6th and the violence on January 6th. While the attack on the Capitol was progressing, Trump famously released a few carefully worded videos. Among the other records demanded by the committee are videos of communications released to the public and communications recorded but not released to the public, any documents or other communications identifying or discussing the content of these videos. Videos recorded but not released and the discussions surrounding them could show whether Trump wanted to release something different but was prevented from doing so by his inner circle. Knowing what Trump wanted to release could offer evidence about his state of mind and his intention. Trump's defenders have pointed out that Trump, during the January 6th speech at the rally, told the crowd, "I know that everyone here will soon be marching to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard." But members of the crowd wore goggles, camouflage, army-style helmets, and other tactical gear. Thus, the committee has requested all photographs, videos, or other media, including any digital timestamps for such media, taken or recorded within the White House on January 6, 2021, or taken of the crowd assembled for the rally on the morning of January 6, and all communications or other documents related to that media. So if Trump or other White House officials saw military tactical gear in the crowd and then proceeded to direct the people to the Capitol, that would undermine the sincerity of Trump's use of the word peacefully. Such evidence could answer these questions. Did Trump actually want a peaceful demonstration, or did he want plausible deniability? Meanwhile, other cases are working their way through the courts with the aim of demonstrating that Trump violated the law on January 6th and during the weeks leading up to that fateful day. 7 U.S. Capitol Police officers filed a lawsuit Thursday against Trump, the Stop the Steal rally organizers, and others, alleging that they bear responsibility for the Capitol violence and are thus responsible for the injuries suffered by the officers. Specifically, the officers accused the defendants of encouraging white supremacists to attack the Capitol. Similarly, in March, 2 police officers, James Blasingame and Sidney Hemby, sued Trump for the injuries they sustained, accusing the former president of directing the rioters to attack the Capitol. I talked about that in a video called Blasingame versus Trump, and I pointed out why that case is so bad for Trump. If you missed it, you might want to see that one. Representative Eric Swalwell of California has also sued Trump and several associates in D.C. federal court, alleging that Trump and his co-defendants violated the Ku Klux Klan Act by conspiring to interfere with the Electoral College count. Discovery in civil cases is broad. The federal rules of civil procedure provide several ways for plaintiffs to get information, including interrogatories, depositions, requests for admission. Parties can also compel third parties to give them access to documents. In other words, these defendants will be entitled to the same documents and testimony the Select Committee is demanding. So, one way or another, the facts will come out. Yes, the wheels of justice turn slowly. There are good reasons for the procedures and protections that slow things down. Rule of law, after all, requires procedures for fairness. there will be motions and responses and intermediary rulings. But if Trump and other members of his inner circle and staff bear legal responsibility for inciting the violence, we'll find out.